With the new year comes a new session of the General Assembly. So what new policies will lawmakers on Smith Hill enact, and will there be more tax money coming out of your wallet? Here to talk about that and more, Senate President Dominick Ruggerio. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Kim.
So let's start with the topic of taxes. Massachusetts, for example, just enacted that so-called millionaire's tax. Do you think Rhode Island should follow suit with that or any other broad-based taxes?
First of all, I am not supportive of increasing any broad-based taxes this year. We have a lot of money from the federal government, and I think we should utilize that money for the purpose that it was sent. However, I'm keeping a close eye on what's happening in Massachusetts with the millionaire tax. I'm hoping that some of those people move here. I don't think that we should be taxing anyone at this point in time. We're in a very precarious situation as far as the economy. We have inflation. We have a number of other things. What we're trying to do is keep money in the pockets of Rhode Island residents. So I am not supportive of any tax increase this year. Including that millionaire's tax. If they come here from Massachusetts, you won't be raising their taxes? It would not be my intention to raise their taxes, yes.
So what is your top priority this next legislative session?
This session we are going to be focused not just entirely on education, but that's going to be a big part of what we're doing. So many things are tied in with education, learning loss, mental health issues, not just with the students, but also with the teachers. And the child's tax credit. We have a number of other things that are pending. Obviously, the Senate has been a big supporter of pre-K, universal pre-K, pre-kindergarten, and we are going to look to support that. That's going to take some money, and I'm hoping that we can get the appropriation to start doing that and make sure those individuals, 3 or 4 years old, start school earlier.
Speaking of education, you represent part of Providence, where the state has, of course, taken over the school system. You mentioned in a recent interview that you were considering maybe a partnership with the Rhode Island Foundation in terms of maybe helping the Providence school system. How do you see that working?
First of all, the Rhode Island Foundation, they had a seminar going back about a year ago. And they had parents there, they had students there, they had teachers there, they had a number of interested stakeholders there. I think they're an organization comprised of a lot of people who are really interested in the betterment of the state of Rhode Island. I think they've done a great job in the past supporting a lot of other groups and nonprofits. And I think we should enlist their expertise and their skill, and to see what they think about the education system, not only in Providence, but in the state of Rhode Island.
Staying on the topic of Providence, you told the Boston Globe, referring to outgoing Mayor Jorge Elorza, quote, "I didn't think he did much." What letter grade would you give Elorza, and why?
I'm sorry, I don't do the letter grade thing, but I felt that there should have been more economic development in the city of Providence. Interest rates were low for the longest time. We have the 195 land in Providence. We have to pay for that land eventually. I think there should have been more development, not only in that particular area, 195, but also around that area. I didn't see the development that we could have had, and I haven't seen that type of development in the last 12 years. I think it was a great opportunity for us to bring in new companies in this state, especially the meds and eds groups, and it just didn't materialize.
And just quickly, before we let you go, the housing crisis has been making headlines recently, especially with the removal of that homeless encampment from the State House grounds. Do you think the McKee administration handled that acute situation appropriately, and is handling the broader homelessness situation appropriately?
Well, I'm going to answer your second question first. I think that knowing the winter was coming, knowing people were homeless, I think our housing agencies in this state should have done a better job of soliciting people. I saw what happened when they had the evictions and things of that nature. There was free money out there. They could have paid for their rent, 4 or 5 months of their rent free, and also for the utilities costs that they incurred. I didn't think that the state or the housing agencies did a great job with that. I just think that more should have been done earlier.
All right, that is all the time that we have. Senate President Dominick Ruggerio, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me, Kim.
And looking ahead to tomorrow, when Salve Regina's Jim Ludis will join us to talk about President Volodymyr Zelensky's recent visit to the U.S. and the Ukraine war. We'll also be joined by outgoing Providence Mayor Jorge Elorza. All of that's coming up tomorrow right here at 4.